Can we learn fortune telling to predict the next release of Steel Ball Run? There are multiple kinds of fortune telling. There's palm reading, there's tarot reading, and there's also Jojo's reading, because there's a form of fortune telling written into Jojo's Bizarre Adventure as an Easter egg to let you vaguely predict details of the future plot. So what if we learn that skill and then use that as a template to branch out a bit and learn traditional forms of fortune telling to increase our odds of being able to predict when the next batch of SBR episodes will release? Jojo's loves fortune telling because it's a story with a moral about humans doing the right thing when faced with trials and challenges from the universe itself. So there's one family that represents humanity called the Joestars, and each time one representative of that family is fated to exist, which is signified by them being a Jojo, they're fated to be challenged by a guy called Dio Brando. And it's why his name is the Italian word for God, because they're being challenged by the universe to prove themselves as righteous every time. So they have powers tied to the fact that they're vulnerable to a larger system, they're only a single cog within. Which is why when they breathe right, they can make the most out of the potential they have, but they can't exceed it and extend their lifespan. Fortune telling plays into this, because if you're more attentive to cause and effect, connecting the observable universe, then you're able to recognize how some patterns might naturally reveal things about other stuff going on at the same time. So the ultimate form of Hamon is a stand that lets you gather information remotely and vaguely predict the future, akin to traditional fortune telling. It's the ability to make use of fortune telling tools. So overall, the Joestars draw their power from two things. There's the food chain that they're always at the mercy of, and there's their lineage, which they have their potential from. Which is why even when they're through with Hamon, Jotaro gets a stand that looks like Jonathan, because his life story and strength come from his lineage, and he's the one bringing the original conflict with Dio to its conclusion. Fortune telling, appreciating and making the most out of there being a wider interconnected system around you, is heavily valued by Jojo's Bizarre Adventure, which is why it shows up time and time again. Jojo's is also written with over-the-top intricate formulas for what happens each chapter. Characters have full documents with checklists written out to help make them feel more real. There are layers of references of things the series appreciates, and there are a bunch of patterns and formulas in the storytelling meant to be noticeable on purpose. So if readers could follow along with the ideas behind it, they'd be able to generally predict pieces of what will happen in the upcoming story without knowing how it all fits together just yet. Like the way people can come up with predictions using fortune telling. It's a really cool Easter egg, but the trick to use that tool comes from treating it like Hermit Purple. Fortune telling isn't just pattern recognition. There's a belief in superstition that sometimes connections are created and people are drawn to observations from and by intelligent forces like spirits. So to be able to spot Jojo's patterns, the baseline is figuring out author intent. But then you can tell general things about the future of the series, like how everything always circles back to Dio, and how in the new continuity, stories have very specific structural elements that determine their characters, what their messages are, and how they end. We are going to try 3 forms of real-world fortune telling to try to predict when Steel Ball Run Stage 2 will drop. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through 3 forms of fortune telling, with the last form being tarot, the card reading that is integral to part 3 of Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. And then after that, I'm going to get 2 people to read tarot for me, and we can see if our predictions all match up for when we think Steel Ball Run is going to drop. Because I am completely new to fortune telling, and I don't have any sort of gift, I'm going to do these forms of fortune telling to leave the possibility open for something supernatural like spirits to help guide certain connections and coincidences, improving the accuracy of the readings. However, what I will be concentrating on is using the readings like a springboard. Basically, my thought process is this. When there's a problem with an unknown solution, and you only have so much time to deal with it, even thinking through the problem is a trade-off you have to commit to. And because you don't know where to start, your few moments that you can afford to spend thinking through potential options are going to be asymmetrical. They won't account for every scenario, which means because you don't fundamentally know the nature of this problem and its solution, you're probably going to spiral off it, instead of reaching the specific angle that works to describe the problem in a way with achievable solutions. Any opportunity to consider one possible scenario and explore that train of thought is going to detract from your ability to solve that problem, which means a lot of people don't necessarily have a clear model to change what are presently unknowns to them to things they can work with and start thinking through. But if asymmetry was presented to you externally, for example, one of a bunch of different cryptic readings, you could ground your thoughts around it to create a more consistent model of the issue through, which lets you analyze the overall picture better. It's like how it's faster to write a first draft and then revise your script than it is to write something perfect that covers all the aspects you wanted to convey the very first time you write it line by line. You're using your slanted initial draft as scaffolding to build all the even pillars afterward. The origin of anything symmetrical is an asymmetry. So if I use fortune telling like this, it turns problems from unknown hassles with unclear ways of looking at them into ways to process a lot of information and average out a generally more likely guess than I would have been able to reach if I had not gone through that thought process. And it just allows the opportunity for anything that is supernatural, any kind of spirit or coincidence, to help make the read more accurate and let the problem solve itself on its own. In other words, mechanistically, methods of fortune telling make it easier for you to reframe a problem by thinking through it clearly to better understand how to produce achievable solutions. It turns a potential unknown negative, where thinking is a trade-off that doesn't actually make the picture any clearer and just risks not getting anywhere, into a scenario where you have a path forward to solving a problem, but there is always the room for coincidences and patterns and the supernatural, anything especially accurate about that fortune, to come in and have things line up even more conveniently. So with that said, let's get into the first type of fortune telling that I found from a Google search.
Alright, let's do this.
Okay, so the device used by a dowser is typically referred to as a dowsing or divining rod. Okay. Interesting. So there are three forms of dowsing that are used. There's the Karapika method, where you use a pendulum and try to analyze the motions of it. You could do a pair of rods, and the harmony between the two suggests something's happening. And you can use a twig, and the dipping of that suggests something's happening. I think in our case, what we're going to want to try to use... I'm drawn to pair of rods, okay? I'm drawn to pair of rods as the form of dowsing we use. So I'm going to try all three, but I'm inclined to go with the pair of rods as the answer. Yeah, I'm going to get some Allen keys from the garage in order to do this, because that's the best. Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna get some Allen keys from the garage. That seems like the best way to do this. These are the most accessible L-shaped rods that I have lying around. Yeah, okay, so what I could not find were Allen keys. I could find two rusty as hell hand saws. Holding these in my hands right now. I'm gonna try to use them as L-rods. So here we go. So okay, I'm gonna try holding them in one hand. January, February, March, April, May. Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Holy shit, the hand crank started turning. June, July, August, and it also stopped in November. It started turning in May, and it stopped turning in November. And I'm gonna read that as the fact that it stood out as the moment my hand started to slip and give up on it in May. That's a sign that we're only waiting until May. Otherwise, maybe we're waiting until November. Yeah, using hand saws was not a bright idea, unless I just very flimsily hold on to them. January, February, March, April, May. Oh shit! Oh, they moved apart on May again, actually. I tried using the two hand saws and they drifted apart from each other on May. Okay, yeah. May's the only one that actually fully moved again. June. July. Yeah, I'm not getting it. Okay. So when I tried, it seemed like the Y dowsing isn't useful for me. The L dowsing, on the other hand, did consistently point out May as a month. Alright, I've grabbed myself a pendulum. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick a pen through it, a marker through it. May 1st, May 2nd. Oh, no. I'm going to use a binary search. All right? May 1st. May 16th. Oh, that's a weird movement. Oh, it dipped. Okay, so May 16th. May 16th. May 23rd. Oh, that's a weird bobbing. Okay. You did it again. Okay. Gotta find the point where it balances on the marker. May 23rd. May 27th. May 23rd. May 27th. All I know is that it's after May 23rd, but I'm not getting an accurate read past that. I have no idea how to douse, but that's the best that I can gather for now. I'll interpret the results later. According to numerology.com. Steel Ball Run episode 1 came out on March 19th. According to numerology.com, March is the 3rd, so that's a 3. 19th, 1 plus 9 is 10, so 1 plus 0 is equal to 1. So 3 and 1 and 26 is equal to 8. So 3, 1, 8, which is 4 and 8, which is 12, which is 1 and 2, which becomes 3 again. The future for Steel Ball Run is on Life Path 3. Cool, I don't understand this one at all. Never mind. Okay, according to freetarotreading.net, they're saying that card positions represent this. Instead, I'm going to say I'm doing a tarot reading where... Oh, we'll just do 3. Why is it kept in the air? What's the trajectory? Is it going to be relatively... Is it going to get slower over time? Is it going to get faster? And then when is it going to be? It's going to be those 3 questions. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 19, 17, and 13. It's the most recent prime numbers. 5. But the first 3 are the ones that we're going to read. Wheel of Fortune for why is it being kept hidden. So Wheel of Fortune says there's a bit of good luck, even though it's being kept ambiguous, or there's going to be it's being kept ambiguous, but that's a good thing and it's a sign of good things to come. So that makes it seem like it's going to be recent or going to be soon. Like it's being kept that way out of the hope of being able to get it produced in time. It's uncertain whether or not it can be produced by a certain date. They're keeping it in batches for some reason, but it is uncertain if the show can be produced at a certain date. They are keeping the next date hidden because they are hoping they could do it sooner rather than later. So instead of committing to a really far out there later on time in the year, they are being open about the fact that it is supposed to be this year to get it sooner rather than later, but there is not a guarantee. They're either pushing for a sooner release, but just can't guarantee it, or they're pushing to have it fully done and animated in time. That is fortunate. Wheel of Fortune suggests that it's only because they are pushing to get the episode sooner, not because they are trying to cover up how far in the future they've always planned for it to be. Second, I'm going to interpret that to mean, what is the schedule of the release is going to be? It's going to be changed. So for example, in Jojo's Part 6, they took a year between the first 2 batches and then like 3 more months for the rest of the series, the 3rd batch. So it took about a year and 3 months. It's possible they gave us a first episode to hype up the rest of the series and they'll release it later, but that would kill the hype. So I'm inclined to believe that's not what they're doing. Instead, they are trying to pace it more through checkpoints that could be satisfying themselves, which either means the first one is just supposed to be a teaser of what's to come and it's really the second checkpoint is going to grab people, or because it didn't really work for Stone Ocean, they're doing it in batches but trying to make the batches briefer. And if you're basing it on the number of stages, if we say there's one every like 2 months or so, then that is a more consistent change for the release schedule while keeping it batches, but also making it so that people regularly get updates. So toward the end of March, April, May, that's number 2, June, July, that suggests that the total release is going to be similar to the amount of time it took for Stone Ocean, maybe slightly longer. However, they could pace it so that one full batch is done every 2 months, which means they're rushing to get more confidence in future batches so that they can uphold the schedule. But it's also possible There's no guarantee they could do that either, so they're pacing it out. I'm going to assume that's it. It's uncertain because they are finalizing stuff, because the batches are going to be heavier from now on, but they're going to try to do it where there's one batch released every 2 months. And so when's it going to be? There's going to be deceit and a lack of reliability on when this episode is coming out. That is accurate. But trust and instincts, those instincts are saying end of May. Okay. So according to these 3 cards, Steel Ball Run's next release date is not being revealed because they are trying to get it out faster, in that it seems like that is going to succeed. It is going to go according to the plan they hope, and it is not that they've been secretly hoping to push it back to a shitty date, and that they're just keeping it vague because they know everyone's going to be mad at the actual date they planned. Good. Second, the overall trajectory for the release is going to be way more consistent than it was with Stone Ocean, which means it's going to be something with quick intervals but smaller batches, for example, every 2 months or so. Number 3, right now, it is really dishonest and deceiving when the next episode is going to come out. However, go with the impression you got from the previous form of divination, which was end of May. Alright, so the tarot cards are lining up with the idea of it being end of May. And it's going to be consistent batches once every 2 or so months, because we're about to get a more fortunate than not reveal to when Steel Ball Run's going to have its next episode. So the numerology was a bust, but the dowsing and the tarot both seem to suggest the same time frame for Part 7's Part 2. Could that be the supernatural? Maybe. Could that be because subconsciously there was a bit of a stutter because that felt like where all the answers were pointing to? Maybe. It could be both. Luckily, 2 people on the server's mod team are practicing tarot readers. One has ancestors who practiced fortune telling, and one's a skeptic, but they both seemed enthusiastic about reading my fortune so we can predict when SBR will come out. So I'm gonna go interview them while they read tarot for me to see if our results line up with the same prediction.
Hi, hello.
I take it you've done fortune telling before?
Yes, I've worked with both runes and tarot, which I have both with me today. With tarot, I thought it was interesting, so I wanted to learn more about it, and I learned how to read them back when I was in high school. And then with runes, my family is Norwegian, and I became very interested in Nordic pagan practices, so I started learning how to read runes again when I was in high school.
Okay, very cool. Now, do you personally believe in an ability to predict the future through fortune telling?
I believe that if people have enough belief in something, belief is a powerful thing.
So, I am curious, you do both runes and tarot reading, and from what I could tell, runes are what you typically use for predicting future dates and whatnot, trying to decipher a specific question, whereas tarot reading is mostly interpretations of vague questions and futures. So how would you be able to predict the release of Steel Ball Run second stage through tarot?
There's a thing called a deacon's wheel. It's a wheel that shows you the different stages of the year.
Oh, interesting. So with the deacon wheel, you can actually figure out when the cards will come true.
Yes, more accurately than a normal tarot reading would be. So the question is, when will Steel Ball Run come out? Think of a number between 1 and 12.
I'm going to say the number 7.
I'm going to shuffle the deck 7 times. There's a million different ways to pull tarot. Each person has their own individual practice. I'm splitting the deck, right hand or left hand?
Right hand.
Okay. And then give me a number between 1 and 20.
2.
2. 1, 2. This second card that I'm pulling right now is the 7 of Pentacles.
That's a tarot?
Pentacles? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Right. Okay.
7 of Pentacles would be Taurus season, and that's mid-May. So it should come out May 11th through 20th.
Holy shit, dude!
What?
That was the answer I got.
Oh my god! Do you want me to do the runes as well?
Yeah, let's do the runes.
Just tell me when to stop and pull whatever.
Okay, stop.
Okay, so I just pulled, I don't know how to pronounce them, so I feel bad saying it, but It's like it looks like a P. It says I think it's Finn. I could be wrong there. Which translates to W. So I'm interpreting that as winter. So then I'm also gonna pull another one to get the month. Oh, interesting. I just pulled Pho, which is the wealth rune. It translates to F. So I think that means February.
Okay, but they said 2026.
The runes could be wrong. That could be an outlier.
Well, maybe. What happens if you wrap back around?
F with a W?
February. What happens if, like, the distance between now and February were reversed?
Oh, so May?
What if the W was just an upside down M?
All signs are pointing to May.
I mean,
Yeah.
how does it translate to a W? Like, what's the process there?
Okay, so the Nordic alphabet has a translation to the English one. I'm not the most knowledgeable on this, so I wouldn't include this in the video.
So, wait, so are runes kind of like pulling letters out of a Scrabble bag?
Kind of. They actually do have meanings, but that's the method I was using.
Oh, so then you're interpreting what those letters might represent.
Yes.
So it is like pulling Scrabble letters out of a bag.
In theory. So that is a different way of using runes than most people would use it. Fortune telling is never an exact science, but that was very much less so.
All right, hold on. Let me get my runes and see what they're saying.
You have runes? Oh, you have Scrabble.
What do you get when you multiply 6 by 9? I guess it wasn't. I guess it didn't work. Never mind.
Well, does that mean it'll come out in 54 days though? Because that's in May.
That's true. That's true. It is.
152.
What? What are you laughing at?
In 54 days, it's gonna be May 23rd.
What? Oh shit! Oh shit, dude! Hey, whatever works, I guess.
Honestly, I think you should keep that in the video just because it's funny.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course.
All right, now go to work. You have a job.
I can put those there, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're personally a skeptic of fortune telling, right? But you went through, you learned how to do tarot.
Yeah, I'm interested in it. I think it's all kind of iffy, but it's fun to do.
Cool. So I guess how do we do this?
I kind of have questions in advance that I already, know that I want to ask. So I'll just draw the cards, and then I'll tell you what they mean.
Okay.
Okay. So first, what's going on now? What's happening with Netflix? The world reversed. It's not reversed to me. It's reversed to you because you're viewing it from the other side. But the world reversed. Right now, Netflix is very anxious that no matter what they do, the fans are going to be mad. They've established that at this point. They're very anxious. They're scared. All the kickback, from the fans, which leads us to number 2, Knight of Coins reversed. The fans are impatient, worried Netflix won't listen to them. They're worried that nothing that they put out will be good, not necessarily in the quality, but in the schedule, because that's the biggest thing that's going on. So they're scared that the schedule is going to be wrong. This will affect you personally. 7 of Coins reversed. Since Netflix is messing up the release schedule, they are affecting the hype for the fan base. They are ruining what would bring in new viewers. So that affects you because you have less people who are coming to see you, less new people fluctuating in. People are less interested in learning about JoJo's. So your views...
Never gonna hit 20K.
Yeah, you're never hitting 20K. Other things might flourish for you, but specifically JoJo-related videos, they're not going to do that well. This one is when it'll come out. So Swords would be spring. Swords would be spring. But as you can see, it's reversed. So Queen of Swords, I'd say that would be maybe late spring. It'd come out. It's reversed. Not coming out in late spring. So you can just wipe that off your list. It will not come out late spring. It'll be later than spring. What happens then? You may be asking. Yeah, the Tower reversed. And the fans are scared that JoJo's gonna be trapped in with Netflix. They won't get out. They won't have weekly ever again, like they did before. So like after Steel Ball Run, JoJolion will be on Netflix, and Jojo Lands will be on Netflix, and they'll continue to be, messed up. The anime will just continue to be put on the back burner for just Netflix's priorities, ruin the fans' expectations.
So I've noticed that 5 out of 5 of these are reversed.
Yes.
Is the deck shuffled?
Yes, I've shuffled it.
And there's no way that it being reversed means it's just sort of a monkey's paw deal where it is still that answer or that time frame, just in a bad way?
Are you referring to Queen of Swords?
Yeah.
I mean, if it was released in late spring, from what we've seen, that probably would still be bad. If they're taking such a long time to do this kind of stuff, and they're still releasing it early spring, if they're doing multiple episodes, that may be good, but I can't say it'll be perfect because of how they released the last episode. Since it was just like one big long episode, I'm worried that they might do that again. And if they do that again and they release like a big episode, but not saying that all of leg 2 of the race would be one episode, but if they make multiple big episodes and instead of like a bunch of small episodes, then I still see it going pretty badly.
So it's possible that that Swords card means it will be late spring, but only like a part of stage 2, or only stage 2 itself, and then it's again several months until the next stage.
Yes.
I see. And would you consider late May to be late spring?
Yeah, I consider late May to be late spring.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. So how do you read these cards? How do you interpret them, and how do you shuffle the deck?
So you just shuffle the deck, you grab it, you shuffle it, then you cut it, you say the middle, you get the Fool. New beginnings, ha ha ha. They're really subjective, they're kind of vague, you can fit it to mean not like whatever you want, but you can have like a convincing story no matter like what card you pull.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for this demonstration.
Yeah, no problem.
This was so we had to stretch the interpretations a little bit, but in a roundabout way. Each fortune lined up with the same idea, that Steel Ball Run is going to release Batch 2 toward the middle or end of May. Now, again, I have no formal apprenticeship or education in fortune telling. This is all an area beyond me, and I'd love to learn it more if I had the time. But I thought I'd give it my best shot, and learn whatever I could in an afternoon to answer everybody's biggest question. So if it turns out all of this is true, and Steel Ball Run Stage 2 is dropping toward the end of May, I'm gonna put in the title that this has a 100% accuracy rate. If it's not true, I'm gonna put 0% effective instead, but it was worth a shot. I generally think stealing the voice of a series to fire off a bunch of predictions publicly is kind of a mean thing to do. But with a series like Jojo, where there are deliberate Easter eggs in the formulas of the writing, some forms of prediction can work as appreciation. It just means trying not to overstep. But you know what's not appreciating JoJo's Bizarre Adventure right now? A subscription service that implied it would be providing its subscribers with a significant amount of a show they've now not delivered and gone silent about. When people paid for subscriptions that didn't give them what they'd reasonably expected on a service that is giving no information about how long they might have to maintain those subscriptions, which would be a hassle for a lot of the population, so a larger amount of them would keep their subscriptions for those extended months. It's a very dishonest approach that is using a beloved series and helping misconstrue a lot of the author intent by replacing its initial impression with newcomers who are hearing about it through frustrated conversations instead of appreciation for the writing. So in appreciation for JoJo's to counteract Netflix doing the opposite, I thought it would be fun to spend this April 1st giving fortune telling my best shot. So yeah, I guess we'll see how that pans out. Happy April Fools, guys. I'll make an actual analysis on domains or something for Friday.